Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. Inside a remote, quiet cave on Rock Island, shock filled Luo Feng's eyes. It must be the most powerful world tree, he said. Luo Feng could completely empathize with the terrible attack Mosha body had suffered and the desperation he felt. It was like an almighty being killing an ant, and Mosha body was the ant. It had to be the most powerful world tree. Only it was capable of doing this. He attacked me, said Luo Feng. Although he's only a universe knight, he has the power of a universe master with its identity as a special organism. Plus, there's his colossal size. He attacked Mosha body. Luo Feng found it difficult to believe. His original plan was for Mosha body to show up instantly, grab a leaf, and teleport himself to escape. The time that elapsed was only a blink of an eye. Even undying world trees shouldn't have been able to stop him. All I took was a twig and a leaf, and that explosion only caused a minor injury to that world tree. Was it really necessary to kill me? And for the world tree to intervene personally? Luo Feng was full of grievances. He had finally, almost, had the twig and the leaf that would make it possible for him to breed his third body, after which he could have his breakthrough and immediately become an undying fighter. However, he seemed to have run into a major obstacle. I never expected the most powerful world tree to meddle. My Mosha body has already been killed twice. That world tree must be alert, now. What should I do? Luo Feng was anxious. He started to contemplate this problem, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Why didn't you just let me have that twig and leaf, he muttered. That world tree has a crown 60 million miles wide. A single leaf is nothing to it. Do you really think it's worth it? Luo Feng was mainly worried about the most powerful world tree now, a creature that could rival a universe master. It had the talent technique of manipulation of space and time, and with the most powerful world tree strength, it could control sky and land just as well as a real universe master. It must have also excelled at time pause, and perhaps it could even reverse time. As long as the most powerful world tree was in his way, Mosha body didn't stand a chance of breaking free. Not if time was completely stopped. What should I do, wondered Luo Feng. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Little did Luo Feng know, the most powerful world tree was a father, and the other 8 world trees surrounding it were its sons. Like any ordinary tree planted in the soil, as time passed, saplings would naturally begin growing around it. The most powerful world tree, as a special organism, allowed some saplings to grow around it. A single twig could grow into a powerful life tree. As the most powerful world tree, with endless life force, it had a mighty life origin. It grew 8 saplings around it because it felt lonely, and it gave a portion of its essence from its life origin to the 8 saplings. A bit like the space heart giving its essence to Mosha body. The most powerful world tree would rather give up some of its potential to nurture its 8 saplings. It was like a father taking care of and cultivating its 8 children. And since, like most trees, world trees innately didn't like to move, they had spent an eternity together. It was far more caring for its 8 children than fathers of other races in the universe. In this way, it was understandable that it was so protective of its children. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. In the cave of Rock Island. Several plans that had entered Luo Feng's mind had a chance to succeed, but none offered guaranteed success. Mosha body has been successfully bred, he said, sensing, in the primal secret region of the human territory far away, his internal world had successfully bred Mosha body. After only a few seconds, a blurry golden light flashed from God Country Transportation. It spent only a few seconds traveling from the human territory to the ancestral god's secret region. Su. Moshe body stepped out and landed in the cave. Go. Moshe body teleported himself and disappeared again. He showed up in the sky of 9 remoteness ocean and could see Tree Island in the distance. I'll choose the most conservative approach, with the highest chance to succeed. Moshe body disappeared again. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Among the seeds floating on Tree Island, another seed had joined in silence. The seed cluster slowly floated toward the world trees. I'll spend another 5 months getting there, and I'll land beside world trees again, Moshe body murmured. Then I'll let a pinnacle emperor slave throw a flame origin crystal and grab a twig and leaf. The pinnacle emperor might be killed in the end. However, those world trees will regard my pinnacle emperor slave as the head. After the fight, there will be twigs and leaves flying everywhere, and lots of them will be outside the halo. That's when my seed cluster will land on one of the leaves. Then I'll teleport myself with a leaf. Ha! Even the most powerful world tree with the power of a universe master can't do anything, because it can't identify the special seed cluster. This was the new plan. Using a pinnacle emperor slave as a distraction, to blast away a great number of twigs and leaves. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Time passed, and the seed cluster containing Moshe body floated along with the wind. To the superior, most powerful world tree, what had just happened was nothing but a brief interlude. After all, many years adventured in 9 remoteness space, and Moshe body trying to snatch a twig was hardly a threat. And many heirs had the power to kill his sector-lord offspring. The most powerful world tree's only priority was to protect its children's trunks. As long as the trunks were safe, twigs and leaves could be quickly recovered. I'll just go with the wind, and I'll arrive there in a month or so. The seed cluster floated with the wind, hiding among other floating seeds on the beautiful Tree Island. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the area outside 9 remoteness space. Su. 7 great beings from different races and suddenly showed up. One was crawling, with a godly body of 6 miles. It was the largest. The smallest one was less than 2 feet tall, including its wings. It's 9 remoteness space, said the first. We've arrived, said the small one. All 7 great beings from other races looked at 9 remoteness space, all filled with great expectations. So fast. It only took us the time of a meal to arrive here. And it's all thanks to Here Crow Knight's teleportation. Each time, he can teleport hundreds of or even thousands of light years farther, and we jumped over countless dangerous areas. Without Here Crow Knight, it would have taken a much longer time to arrive at 9 remoteness space, and we may have run into danger. Yes, it was all thanks to Here Crow Knight. Suddenly, a piercing voice rang out, yes, we all need to thank Here Crow Knight. The other great beings went quiet upon hearing the voice. The great being who had spoken was covered in scales full of engravings. He stood there, slightly arching his back. His hands and feet were hooked claws. His hair and eyes were golden, and his voice was enough to shut the other great beings up. Am I correct, Here Crow Knight? The great being asked, looking at Here Crow Knight. Here Crow Knight was 20 feet tall with 6 pairs of black-feathered wings. There was a blood-red light dimming on his body, his mouth was like a blade, and his eyes were crimson. He was the same Here Crow Knight of the 100 million heirs on Bohinia Island. Here Crow Knight grinned. I can only help on our way here. Now, we depend on you, Bark Mirror Emperor. 9 remoteness space is filled with dangerous places, said the largest one. We'll have a higher chance of surviving with you by our side, Bark Mirror Emperor. Yes, said the tiny one. We've been stuck in an eternal loop. Lots of heirs wanted to go with you when they knew you were coming to 9 remoteness space. If we're lucky enough to discover some valuables, you and Here Crow Knight should select first. Depending on our contributions, Bark Mirror Emperor should pick first, another spoke up. Of the 7 great beings, 1 was a universe knight and the other 6 were undying heirs. Here Crow Knight was the universe knight, and Bark Mirror Emperor was one of the undying heirs. Ha ha. Relax, Bark Mirror Emperor laughed. It shall be determined by our contributions respectively. I won't take what should belong to you. Here Crow Knight laughed, too, as did the other 5 great beings. Bark Mirror Emperor is famous for his insanity, ruthlessness, and greed, Here Crow Knight thought. If it weren't for his incredible inspection skill, I wouldn't have brought him here. As for the other 5 undying heirs, how can I let true treasures fall into their hands? But I do need to be careful of this Bark Mirror Emperor. I don't want to become a stepping stone beneath his foot. Here Crow Knight dreaded Bark Mirror Emperor. Bark Mirror Emperor was ranked in the top 10 among all the undying heirs. Since the beginning of the universe, there had been heirs arriving and being eliminated on Bohinia Island. As time went by, the vast majority of them were at the normal level, whereas those ranked in the top 10 were the best of the best. Zhu Chong Emperor, as a special organism, was only ranked 3rd. Bark Mirror Emperor was also a special organism, with its life level 2,000 times more powerful than ordinary life forms. Plus, he had 2 distinctive talent techniques. He had been admitted to one of the superpowers in the universe, the Northern Territory Alliance, and had been given a true treasure and a treasure. He was relatively weaker than Zhu Chong Emperor, but he was powerful enough to fight many universe knights. Let's go into 9 remoteness space, Bark Mirror Emperor said. Let's go to the safest place, Rock Island, first. Okay, let's go. Here Crow Knight cast teleportation, and they arrived at Rock Island instantly. In the sky of Rock Island, 7 figures appeared. It was the group of Here Crow Knight and Bark Mirror Emperor. The desolate Rock Island, said Here Crow Knight. It perfectly matches the description in our information. The 7 great beings looked around sharply. They had remained cautious since stepping into 9 remoteness space. It's safe on Rock Island, but there are no valuables, Bark Mirror Emperor said. He had been born with an unusually squeaky voice. Besides, it's a small island, and it will be dangerous if we step off it. He glanced at the other great beings and added, I was ready to take my chances in 9 remoteness ocean, and look for the valuables in that ocean. It is the most dangerous place in all of 9 remoteness space. You can choose whether to come with me or not. The other 5 undying fighters were shocked. 9 remoteness ocean. Bark Mirror Emperor, are you really going to 9 remoteness ocean? Bark Mirror Emperor smirked. The other 5 were all from the Northern Territory Alliance like he was, which was why he had brought them here. However, it would be ridiculous for him to help the other 5 to search for valuables. He didn't have enough time. How about going to other islands first? One of them asked. Bark Mirror Emperor snorted, then looked at Here Crow Knight and asked, what about you, Here Crow Knight? Although all of these great beings were his companions, Here Crow Knight was the only one he valued. After all, he was a universe knight as well as his rival. 9 Remoteness Ocean was a place filled with real danger, and it would be much safer for him to go with someone else. The 5 undying heirs couldn't be blamed for not daring to go. 9 Remoteness Ocean was an endless ocean containing thousands of islands. Most of the heirs went there for valuables, whereas only a few of them had the guts to go to 9 Remoteness Ocean. Although the ocean was boundless, and there might be more valuables hidden there than on all the other islands combined, it was also more hazardous than all the other islands combined. The most dangerous thing in the 9 Remoteness Ocean was the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool in the core of the ocean. Once someone was trapped in it, it would be almost impossible to survive even for a universe night. Here Crow Knight was worried. If you want to go to 9 Remoteness Ocean, I'll come with you. But I need to make sure of one thing. You're not going to the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool, are you? Bark Mirror Emperor shook his head. Of course not. I'm confident, not reckless. There is danger everywhere in 9 Remoteness Ocean. I might dare to venture into other places, but I'll avoid the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool at all costs. Here Crow Knight was relieved. Fine, he said. I'll come with you and explore 9 Remoteness Ocean. Ha ha. Bark Mirror Emperor's squeaky voice gave him a shrill laugh. Here Crow Knight laughed along with him. The other 5 great beings looked at each other and consulted with one another telepathically. What are we supposed to do? Here Crow Knight and Bark Mirror Emperor are both going to the 9 Remoteness Ocean. What should we do? Without them, our chance of surviving on the other islands is small. But if we follow them, we might be able to arrive at some magical places and get some treasures by luck. We're their teammates. They won't attack us. We've been trapped at this stage for an eternity. I'll take my chances. Let's go. I'll follow. 9 Remoteness Ocean is arguably the most dangerous place here. It'll be worth it even if we die there. The 5 undying heirs had made their decisions. Here Crow Knight, Bark Mirror Emperor, we'll follow you. Yeah. Any island in 9 Remoteness space is dangerous. We'd rather go with you guys. We'll all come with you. Bark Mirror Emperor and Here Crow Knight were glad to bring them along. Let me search for any danger within the 1 billion square miles around us first, Bark Mirror Emperor said. Please do, Bark Mirror Emperor. The other 6, including Here Crow Knight, all stepped back. Bark Mirror Emperor had the best probing skills in the universe. He stepped forward and concentrated. The intricate engravings on his scales started to glow, and his golden eyes emanated an illusion that seemed to be a reflection of the surrounding space. Ahead of us, said Bark Mirror Emperor, looking ahead. He said calmly and confidently, there's no danger on the island. When we cross the island, we'll arrive at 9 Remoteness Ocean. The danger within 20 million miles of Rock Island can be ignored. The deeper into the ocean, the more dangerous it is. I've already discovered a universe night-level creature. Bark Mirror Emperor looked in another direction. He claimed to be looking. Actually, it was his talent technique known as Universe Mirror, which could inspect everything within 1 billion square miles by reflecting it in the mirror. All the danger was visible on the mirror, unless it was a universe master, who could completely manipulate the time and space of an area. Otherwise, nothing could evade the universe mirror. Other great beings wouldn't even realize that they were being probed. I've found an undying level special organism, he said. He looked to his left and was momentarily dazed. Huh. Then he gave a weird smile. Bark Mirror Emperor, what did you find? Here Crow Knight couldn't help asking, after seeing him smile like that. Ha ha. Take a guess. Bark Mirror Emperor's look was perplexing, which confused Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs. It's the famous Blade River Emperor. Here Crow Knight and the 5 undying heirs were all stunned. Blade River Emperor. Interesting that Blade River Emperor has the guts to come to 9 Remoteness space, said Bark Mirror Knight. I've heard that he has a set of wings that help him fly away. It's a true treasure. I didn't have the chance to kill him on Bohinia Island, but now is a great opportunity. He stuck out his thick, red tongue and licked his fangs. Bark Mirror Emperor, are you serious? Here Crow Knight was shocked. Humph, said Black Mirror Emperor. You might not dare to act, but I'm from the Northern Territory Alliance, and we're not afraid of that human alliance. You don't need to be a part of it if you don't want to, here Crow Knight. Just behave yourself and don't reveal my intentions to Blade River Emperor. Otherwise, you'll make yourself my enemy. Rest assured, I won't meddle, here Crow Knight said, nodding. Northern Territory Alliance was the alliance with the most members, and it was also one of the superpowers of the universe. It could rival the alliances of the peak races like the human race, the demon race, and the bug race. Let's go. Bark Mirror Emperor smirked and flew away slowly. He didn't dare to go too fast, as he didn't want Luo Feng to notice him. Greed filled Bark Mirror Emperor's golden eyes. It'll be worth it for me to come to 9 remoteness space if I can get those wings. I won't even need to risk going to 9 remoteness ocean after I succeed. He was a special organism, and was naturally greedy and ruthless. However, instead of being ashamed of how he was, he chose to be proud of it. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the cave of the mountain, Luo Feng used the microdetector to conceal himself as he sat with his legs crossed. He had no idea that Bark Mirror Emperor had used Universe Mirror to detect him. Obviously, Bark Mirror Emperor was skilled enough not to be found by the microdetector. 1 month left, said Luo Feng. After a month, I can get the world tree's twigs and leaves and breed my 3rd body. After which, I can be an undying fighter. Luo Feng was looking forward to what was going to happen, without realizing that 7 great beings had already arrived at the mountain. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Stop, Bark Mirror Emperor said. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 followed. That human has a microdetector. Bark Mirror Emperor sniggered. Unfortunately, those detectors are useless. Even the top-tier detectors from the automaton race can't compare with my techniques. Seal. Bark Mirror Emperor looked at the mountain in front of him and used Space Seal. Suddenly, the space ripple in almost half the rock island stopped. Go in, he said. Sue. Bark Mirror Emperor rushed into the mountain. Sue. 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 The other 6 followed him. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Something's wrong, Luo Feng said, glancing at some of the gravel in the cave as he sensed Space Seal. One of the gravels was a keepsake, and there was a second one hidden in another cave. They were used by his servants to position God Country transportation. Even if I leave temporarily, I can still transport myself here directly. Sue. Luo Feng opened his wings and flew out of the cave instantly. He felt a remarkable source of strength storming toward him the moment he rushed out of the cave and saw a great being that looked like a werewolf flying toward him. He had golden hair and golden eyes and was covered in scales, which were filled with engravings. Bark Mirror Emperor. Luo Feng said. He was startled. Dealing with one of the most famous special organisms on Bohinia Island would be a handful. Bark Mirror Emperor was proficient in tracking and hunting, and he was greedy and merciless. Luo Feng shook his wings and sped up. Sue. Ha ha, Blade River Emperor, are you really trying to flee from me? Laughed Bark Mirror Emperor. I'm known for my tracking skills, and I aced space law. Besides, I'm innately fast and have a godly body much better than yours. So, let's see who's faster, you or me. Bark Mirror Emperor sped up, chasing after Luo Feng. Bark Mirror Emperor had a mighty godly body, and his constitution was 2,000 times better than that of normal great beings. Human Emperor limits were 100,000 times stronger than Sector Lords, whereas Bark Mirror Emperor was 200,000 times stronger, which made him equal to a Universe Knight, the powerful godly body with a natural gift for speed. Sue. 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 Bark Mirror Emperor was speeding up. Luo Feng sped up too, but was astonished to see that Bark Mirror Emperor was gaining on him. "What?" he said. "Second form." Luo Feng had to admit that he had underestimated Bark Mirror Emperor. He didn't have time to think of anything else. Instead, he initiated the second form, and the plumes on that wings became sharp like sabers. Hua, hua. The wings tore the surrounding space apart, resulting in significant space turbulence. His body appeared blurry within the turbulence. Bark Mirror Emperor, chasing Luo Feng, was also trapped in the space turbulence, where there were all kinds of space fragments. Each space fragment was as enormous as a planet, which slowed him down as he rampaged among the fragments. He couldn't concentrate on chasing Luo Feng anymore. However, instead of becoming upset, Bark Mirror Emperor grew joyful. "True treasures are indeed impressive," he shouted. "But you, as a mere human, are not qualified for such true treasures. As a special organism, only I am good enough for them. Give me the true treasures, and I'll spare your life." Hong! Bark Mirror Emperor's force surged. He was already burning his godly body. For true treasures, he was willing to burn his godly body. Besides, the Northern Territory Alliance provided him with endless resources just to attract him, and he had abundant valuables to use to recover his godly body. Hong! Bark Mirror Emperor had a godly body that was more powerful than that of an ordinary knight, and once he started to burn it, his power soared. Hong long long. Bark Mirror Emperor sped up again, opening a wide portal among the space turbulence, and crushing all the space fragments in his way. Luo Feng sensed Bark Mirror Emperor's speed skyrocket, nearly catching up to him. "I'm slower than him," Luo Feng realized. He shook his wings. Shua! 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 He started to change directions continuously like a butterfly, pausing, darting, then zigzagging back and forth. Sometimes he rushed forward, sometimes he flew to his left, and sometimes he made a sharp turn. Generally, the faster one went, the more difficult it was to change directions. It was just like a sports car: the greater the speed, the higher the risk of rolling the vehicle while trying to navigate a turn. Bark Mirror Emperor was unprepared for this. He's quite maneuverable. Bark Mirror Emperor was following Luo Feng as his directions changed. When flying straight, Luo Feng couldn't match Bark Mirror Emperor's speed, even he performed the second form of Shawu Wing and caused space turbulence. However, Bark Mirror Emperor panicked as he attempted to quickly change direction. Seal! Bark Mirror Emperor got furious and used his undying power to suppress Luo Feng, but it was torn by Luo Feng's Shawu wings. "Bark Mirror Emperor, why are you coming after me?" Luo Feng said. "My wings were given to me by a universe master. Even if you take them, they will be taken back in the future." "Ha ha! Don't scare me with universe masters," said Bark Mirror Emperor excitedly. "The Northern Territory Alliance has universe masters, too. No wonder it's a true treasure. My constitution is way better than yours, and I'm faster than you. But I'm not as maneuverable. I can only speed up again and again to make sure you can't get away." Asterisk 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 asterisk. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs flew in the sky above the 9 remoteness ocean, as they watched Bark Mirror Emperor hunt Blade River Emperor. Bark Mirror Emperor can't catch up with Blade River Emperor even after burning his godly body. Those wings really must be a true treasure. Burning his godly body can speed him up, but the faster he gets, the more difficult it is for him to change his directions, here Crow Knight said. Bark Mirror Emperor can only guarantee that he's not left far behind. He should be attacking now. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Bark Mirror Emperor couldn't catch up. After a while, a purple crystal ball showed up in front of him. Su. The purple crystal ball flew above Luo Feng much faster than Bark Mirror Emperor, under his undying power. It quickly expanded and turned into a huge purple star, with a diameter of thousands of miles, and a massive hole appeared under it. Hong, long, long. A whirlpool formed in the hole, and a forceful, swallowing power dashed Luo Feng. Under its effects, Luo Feng couldn't maintain his balance. "This is my sealing treasure," Bark Mirror Emperor said with a laugh. "Though I can't comprehend all of space lore, with this treasure and my burning godly body, my sealing skills are better than that of a universe knight. Let's see you break free of that." Luo Feng was trapped within an endless swallowing force. Usually, creatures attack their enemies first and then seal an enemy when they are severely injured and can't put up a fight anymore, Luo Feng roared in his heart. "Yet you attempt to seal me first. Not possible. Shawu wing, break it." Suddenly, the edges of his Shawu wings sliced the surrounding space into pieces. Of the many different kinds of treasures, sealing treasures were effective for sealing, but they had weak attacking power. Unless the great being was significantly inferior to the treasure, it was impossible for a sealing treasure to swallow a great being. Kai, 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 kai. Shawu wing kept slicing the space, and Luo Feng finally broke out. "Huh." Bark Mirror Emperor was dazed, but then he smirked. "True treasures are indeed impressive. Blade River Emperor, I didn't want to kill you in the first place, but now, you brought this upon yourself." Bark Mirror Emperor opened his mouth. Silence. Everything turned quiet in the sky and land as Bark Mirror Emperor opened his mouth incredibly wide. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs were terrified and began murmuring to each other. "If Bark Mirror Emperor howls, Blade River Emperor won't survive it. But Blade River Emperor has clone technique. Either way, this body is not going to survive it, and his true treasures will fall into the hands of Bark Mirror Emperor." Here Crow Knight had the same thought, as Bark Mirror Emperor's 2 talent techniques were distinctive in the universe. One of them was inspection, and the other was attack. He could see everything with his inspection technique, but he could crush a soul with his attacking technique. The moment Bark Mirror Emperor opened his mouth, Luo Feng felt an invisible force. Howl! Even Luo Feng was knocked unconscious by this attack's immensely powerful will. The soul roar was trying to annihilate his very soul. Meanwhile, Tao Pearl, which guarded the core of Luo Feng's soul, suddenly appeared, started to shine, and surrounded his soul. The roaring continued. In front of Luo Feng's soul, Bark Mirror Emperor's head appeared, its phantom image opening its bloody mouth and bellowing at Luo Feng. Wing wing wing. The Tower Pearl started to tremble. Luo Feng's soul shook. The willpower around his soul had been destroyed. Only his core, which was being protected by Tower Pearl, resisted the force. Howl! Wing! Tower Pearl strived to protect the soul. Luo Feng regained consciousness. "How terrifying," he mumbled, startled by the realization of what had just happened. "Before the Tower Pearl showed up, that attack knocked me unconscious. Apparently, I can't resist it in the slightest. If it weren't for the Tower Pearl, I would have been crushed." Even the Tower Pearl had a hard time resisting it. The more powerful the special organisms were, the more incredible their talent techniques were. Silver, I was merely mediocre. Special organisms like Bark Mirror Emperor and Zhu Chong Emperor were the real talents. Time to run. Luo Feng dove toward the 9 Remoteness Ocean, knowing he couldn't get away no matter how skillfully he changed directions. 9 Remoteness Ocean was the largest and most dangerous place in 9 Remoteness space, especially with considering the 9 Remoteness whirlpool, but Luo Feng couldn't worry about that right now. Peng! Water in the ocean was blasted away, as Luo Feng traveled down into the 9 Remoteness Ocean. Impossible. Bark Mirror Emperor said, blown away by what he had just seen. He couldn't believe Blade River Emperor could resist the attack he was proudest of. His face was twitching as he dove into remoteness ocean. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the sky above the ocean. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs were dazed. He resisted it. He didn't die. They found it unbelievable. Here Crow Knight kept shaking his head. Bark Mirror Emperor's godly body is so powerful that he can rival universe knights. Now that is burning his undying power to perform his talent technique, that attack can rival that of a universe overlord. How could the human, Blade River Emperor, withstand that? Here Crow Knight, said another heir, Bark Mirror Emperor, has the power of a universe knight, and he just burned his power to use his talent technique. How could Blade River Emperor repel that power? Unless he has another true treasure used to protect his soul. A true treasure to protect his soul. The other heirs were dazed. That's right, a true treasure, here Crow Knight said, nodding. He has a soul, and he himself can't defend against that attack. It had to be the true treasure, a true treasure used to protect his soul. Bark Mirror Emperor has 2 true treasures. The humans value Blade River Emperor so much that it's certainly possible he has 2 true treasures. 2 true treasures. Other 5 heirs couldn't believe it. This is insane, said here Crow Knight, incredibly jealous. He was a universe knight, yet he didn't have even one. Bark Mirror Emperor and Zhu Chong Emperor both had 2 true treasures, and so did Blade River Emperor. If I'm lucky enough to have it, I'll just hide, said here Crow Knight. 2 treasures, one used to flee and the other used to protect my soul. Aggression flashed across here Crow Knight's eyes. He dove toward the ocean, too. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the cold, oppressive ocean, the water emanated a heart-stopping force. Hong long long. Bark Mirror Emperor kept chasing Luo Feng and kept and space sealed. At the same time, he roared, human, there's no way you can escape. You could withstand my talent technique attack, which means you have a real treasure to protect your soul. It has to be. They're both mine. Mine. Bark Mirror Emperor had gone crazy. A true treasure to protect souls was much rarer, and much more precious than a flying true treasure. Su. Luo Feng kept changing his direction in remoteness ocean, and dove deeper and deeper into this deadly area. Part 1 end here.